Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. It's the 8th episode of Beyond the Backstage Pass. Tonight, we've had a couple technical difficulties. It's the nature of live streaming. I want to first point out that with the help, love, and mentorship of my good friend Bernie Broderick, we get this thing done. Tonight, he's booked up with his other obligation to Rick Allen and making the beautiful creations that is the Truth in Audio manufacturing side of his business. And so he won't be with us, to our great distress and despair. We love you, Bernie. Hope you're good out there. I've got a good friend in the shop tonight, sitting in the guest seat. His name's Kyle Thomas. He does our festival work for us. We had him booked on he works for Southern California Sound Image, also Sound Image Productions. And we had him booked out on a big live tour for National Rock, and that kind of fell through due to the coronavirus. We've had him in for doing a lot of training with us, really supervising training. Kyle, how are you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for getting me out of the house. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. What have you been doing to keep your chops up? How have you been spending your time?
As busy as possible, just doing as many classes as I can, trying to correct my sound vision files, keep up with the acoustics webinars that are going on. I've been plugging away at the Fender classes since they're free on my off time.
Sure.
And the recent thing really has been this S6L training that George has been nice enough to kind of put together for all of us.
George, my brother, the general manager of Sound Image.
Yes, sir.
That gentleman, yeah. So I know the idea with that was to get with the S6L and to work with, 128 input Pro Tools redundant rig?
Yes, sir, yeah.
How's that going?
It's good. It's a slow process. Now that I've actually gotten in for a couple of days on the desk, it's all making sense. So
a lot to learn on there.
Yeah,
a lot to do.
Well, especially from a Digico perspective, transitioning over has been an interesting thing. So
yeah, it's slightly different language, topography, all of this good fun stuff.
Yeah, you got it.
But I've seen you killing it over there. You're answering questions for others and making it happen generally.
Trying to help, man. I think that's the biggest part in this off time that I've found has been helpful. Just the, conversations we've been having between my peers and everything, seeing our weak points or maybe areas that we really haven't had time to hone in on. So, been utilizing the time as much as I can to kind of reach out and get the correct questions to ask before we, really dive into something.
Well, you've always been really good at that networking, and you have a very, the training is company-wide and I think beyond. So we've got our engineers from Tennessee to San Diego to here, all on board. I believe some folks at our Arizona shop are all on board and doing this networking between each other, getting better, learning more stuff. So when we do come back to work, you guys will be ready and work with some new equipment and go out there and put on some big rock shows. Is that the idea?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
We're getting all itchy.
Yeah.
Get out on the road again, so we'll see how it goes.
We've been seeing some smaller companies kind of fade out, struggling with this transition. It's been really hard on a lot of shops, the financial hit, the lack of work. Typically this time of year we'd be up to our ass in gigs, working our brains out, running, going, shooting, and it just crazy. So I feel kind of bad for some of the smaller shops that haven't been able to financially make the cut. Yeah,
especially right after a slow season like this. It's like, how is it going to keep on going? It's going to be interesting to see who's left for the smaller companies, really.
That's a very good point. We had just come out of, personally, our shop just came out of a ton of winter maintenance. You were involved in some of that.
Oh, yeah.
And everything was tip-top perfect, ready to go. We were ready to rock and roll. We had 9 shows on the board.
I know, yeah. We were all excited
for some of those. And it was literally the week of, we were about to hit the ground running, and we started getting cancellations due to this unknown new, I think we were calling it coronavirus at the time. I think it's now COVID-19.
I think it's both.
Yeah, it's the same damn difference. Regardless, it's what it is, and we're waiting it out. We're gonna be on the other side when it's time to rock and roll again and put out shows of any way, shape, or form, from weddings to corporates to festivals to tours. Sound Image doesn't discriminate. We will provide sound and protection for anybody, and we're glad to have you on the team, and thank you for keeping your skills up and helping some of our younger guys, get their chops up and their skill set so they have the tools in their tool bag. So when it's time to rejoin the live audio, live production workforce, that will be all ready.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. It's a super big deal. I forgot, again, we started with some technical difficulties, so I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Vince Edwards, operations manager, basically logistics all-around guy for Sound Image Productions. I also have the closed Facebook groups, the Backstage Pass, and Death by Loadout. This show is intended to be a companion piece to those groups, particularly the Backstage Pass, which is where we kind of keep the diehards and the old school players in. You know, we just keep them up to date. There's a lot of love we got for you guys. We're feeling your pain. We're experiencing it too. You know, live streaming looks like a direction that we're going to go in the future, at least as one lane, one channel to take all this equipment and all this combined skill and talent and knowledge to hopefully bring live shows to you guys one way or another, however it is, and that's yet to be determined, but we're working on it. We actually have one show out in the field right now, which is, it makes my heart feel good knowing that we have that. Today in the shop, we got a really special guest. We actually have a few people out in the audience. A little shout out to some folks that showed up. Some of our diehard great friends, Joe, Fuki. It's great to have you here tonight. Thank you for coming in. Tonight we've got a big dog in the house. Now I've talked about this gentleman because he's provided the cameras that help us give you a show so you can see us. His name's John Rigney. He's the managing partner of Large Screen Video. He's got an interesting story to tell us. John, we're super glad to have you here. How are you, my friend?
Stand back, everybody. He's here.
It's John in the house.
Oh, happy to be here, man. It's like it's a surreal situation being here, man. It's like, you know, live from Hayward. It's Thursday afternoon. it's like you know, we've got it's surreal. We've got Robocams here with like two of the best camera operators in the business just sitting there in the audience waving at us.
The first thing, just so you know, we literally do have two of the best camera, and you guys have seen them on the show. The first thing they did is came in and said, yeah, the lighting's all wrong. You got to frame up this shot better. So it was great to have you. We love you. Thank you for the help with that because, you know, we're winging it. I wanted to ask you, I basically know your story, how you got in this business, but it is not the straight line. Like most of us, came into this thing. Talk to us about how you got into this business, because you didn't start out owning a big-ass video company and lead wall company. You worked with what?
Nobody comes from a straight line, and I've never heard of anybody doing this. As a matter of fact, one of my mentors who was given to haiku actually once described his life that, you know, wasn't as planned, turned out fine. Yeah, so that's I kind of feel like I fall into that situation. But, you know, like many of us in this business, you know, we started off as musicians, and those of us who are able and interested in that way, you know, we're fascinated by the technology, and you know, those of us who weren't really super talented songwriters had to do something else for a living after a while.
Guilty.
But no, California's my home. I've been out here a good long time. I've from the Chicagoland area, and started off as a musician and in audio. And when I came to California, it transitioned into a lot of video and film and audio visual. And at that time, I knew very little about television and video and film, but a guy who could troubleshoot to component level, which I could at the time, came in handy, and that's
pretty valuable guy.
And that's how it came to be. Yeah.
So, but I know you made a few stops along the way. You worked with Skinner. You worked with Paul McCartney.
Well, you know, we were fortunate. We're jumping a little ahead of the game, but I was the founding partner of a company called AVTS, and Chris Guthrie and I started that company and grew it. And we were pretty close to a production company called Nocturne, and we actually shared their building at 2051 3rd Street for a while. And we were very fortunate for their indulgence and their friendship, and we supported them in any way we can. And that I'd already had a background in touring, and I was able to assist them with some of their touring clients, which I'm proud to do. And I made some very good friendships through that company, which I still enjoy to this day. And some very very talented people went through that camp. I'd like to believe I'm one of them, but a lot of really talented people did go through that camp.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the Herbie Herbert camp, right?
Yeah.
One of many, but he's kind of
Herbie, John Draper, Paulie Becker. I mean, there's a long list of capable people.
Yeah, no two ways.
Yeah, we had started AVTS a couple of years before, and we were also fortunate to have the friendship and the indulgence of some other people. Lou Falsino from Momentum Enterprises got us an international ad hoc closed circuit network, and that really set the stage for us having enough video projectors to have a rental inventory. And one thing led to another, and in '97 we were acquired by Avesco in England, and now it's all called CTUS.
Yeah. That was a $130 million deal.
It's numbers are numbers are nebulous, but still in all.
But it's still kind of impressive. Yeah. And you still work your heart out every day. You never.
Well,
show up. You're the adult in the room, as they say.
I try to be, yes. At the point where we were transitioning ownership, I took Outdoor Screens division and spun it off into a separate company, and that's what large screen video imaging is, or as we've come to be known recently when we became a corporate entity, LSV Production Services Incorporated. So
yes, and you have shops, I guess, kind of strategically placed around the nation. You have one in Henderson, I guess, Henderson, Nevada.
And we're technically a Nevada corporation, and we still operate in Miami, and obviously we're headquartered here in the Bay Area, as we've always been. As a matter of fact, in the last little less than 2 years, we're now your Hayward neighbors.
Yeah, that's been very convenient and nice to have you near.
Yeah.
Well, the B2B, we do a lot of business with you. When we throwing up shows or doing the festivals that we get into or tours, and you're together. We're kind of unstoppable.
I'd like to believe that. I don't like to be stopped.
I feel like
we're unstoppable. Watch out, you.
That statement is dangerous because we're been stopped, and I don't think
been stopped.
Yeah, and I don't think we could have predicted that. I think we were talking earlier before the show, and the closest thing that we've in our living memory was the 9/11 scare, and this is a whole nother deal. I mean, this is global. It is complete.
It is unprecedented.
Unprecedented.
We've not, seen the like of it since, those of us who are the age that we are, we weren't alive for World War II for the most part. Sure. We weren't alive for the Great Depression. We weren't alive for the 1918 pandemic. We just have a historical reference on those things. So from the point of view of our own life experiences, this is unprecedented. You just said things are gotten pretty interesting. It reminds me of what's supposed to be the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times.
Oh, yeah.
We are living in interesting times.
I have found that people routinely get that curse wrong. They don't realize it's a curse. They think it's, a blessing. It's a sign of something good. And it is not a sign of something good. It
can be.
Well, are you speaking to the concept that in the chaos creates opportunity?
Yes.
I would love to hear you speak to that right now. Now, I know we were talking about live streaming, and I feel is a little more down your alley. Well, we'll all have to hopefully adapt into some part of that. What do you see going on? This is kind of is an offshoot.
This is this right here, what we're doing right now is I see it as a proof of concept. I mean, we're obviously not spending we have a background of a little bit of a line array here, and we're not spending the farm on creative scenic or anything like that. And we certainly aren't using the best 4K cameras that we own, but still in all, it's a way to have fun. It's a way to have a proof of concept, and we're reaching out to the people that we know and we care about.
Absolutely. And
and the people that we want to be a little bit more involved into. I'm not trying to be blatantly ass kissy to anybody out there, but we're I'm sure you'll agree that we miss the people we normally work with. I mean, you know, I miss my clients. I miss my freelance employees. You know, I even miss IATSE people here.
Top
you know?
Guns. Yeah.
But you know, I mean, and we really want to get back to seeing them as a normal sort of thing in our lives. But it's like been a little bit of reverse aversion therapy. I mean, something like this, one of the opportunities that's created out of it is actually getting the opportunity to get an object lesson in what we do and why we love what we do. So, you know, it's going to, when we return to it, I'm sure we'll return to it with a increased level of enthusiasm, and we'll also have an idea or two, because we'll have to change the game up a little bit. We'll have to increase, we'll have to diversify our activities. We'll have to increase our perception of opportunities. There's a lot that's going to change, but I'm sure we're all smart people, and we will create the opportunities that come from chaos, or avail of ourselves of those opportunities, and you know, it's probably going to be good eventually. Since we are who we are, and when I say we are who we are, is we are human beings, and in those of us who work in show business are a manifestation of that human entity, in that we want to be in groups. We want to socialize. We are pack animals. This is who we are, you know. And eventually, when we get past all of this hoop-de-doo that we're going through right now, some of it created from ineptitude on certain people's part. I don't want to get into anything really political, but when we get past this, we will be back in force as social animals who indulge each other on a person-to-person basis and like to get together in groups. We live for that shit. We literally do.
Absolutely.
And so I'm not pessimistic about our business going away. You know, everybody who's in presentation technology, everybody who's in trade shows, everybody who's in show business, everybody who's in television, we're all on our asses right now.
Yeah.
The people that had a good backup plan are going to survive. The people that didn't have a good backup plan ain't. And you know, that's just the way it is. I mean, if you start looking at the travel that we all take through life and back up enough to see the forest for the trees, you'll see that it goes like this. You know, we have periods of chaos, we have periods of tragedy. You know, if you're my age, my parents, I know, and in some of our cases our grandparents, you know, lived and fought through World War. Both of my parents were combatants in a global struggle against fascism. This ain't shit compared to that.
Yeah,
for real.
So you know,
perspective.
I think we're going to be fine, you know, and we are. And in the meantime, we are doing the things that we need to do. We are broadcasting to, you know, however big our viewing audience is. If it's big enough, maybe we're missing some opportunities for sponsorship. I don't know. If it's small enough, we can transport them from one place to another in a couple of tour buses. Who knows? But we're going to be fine, and it's going to be different. But everything is always different, and we're doing this proof of concept. We're at my company. A lot of us are coming to work every day. The people who wanted to shelter in place had the option of doing so, and they're doing so. Warehouse and technical staff are busy keeping equipment maintained. We're doing some physical plant maintenance. We are, as all of us must, we are
making the best of it.
Yeah, we're making the best of it. We're being cognizant of doing a little bit of belt tightening that's necessary, but we're being careful not to tighten that belt around our own throats.
Absolutely.
So we're doing what we need to do to be battle ready when the dust settles, and when everything starts getting back to work, and get back to work it will. And a lot of people are speculating. I don't know. My crystal ball's a little on the fritz, but a lot of people are speculating that when it hits back, it's going to hit back with a vengeance. And we've got to be ready to be out of our mind swamped like that when it happens.
Well, it's interesting to see what's going to come next, maybe with the whole transition of going through these drive-in shows. I know our Nashville branch just did a Keith Urban halftime show, or a drive-through show kind of deal.
That got a lot of attention.
Yeah, it did, and I'm really interested to see, what the lighting side and basically our whole industry is going to restructure itself with more of those shows in the near future.
Well, that's one of the little bright spots, really. Those of us who have, truck and trailer configured mobiles are fortunate enough to where our phones have been ringing off the hook. This is a broadly embraced concept. We've been writing quotes like "Madness in the Spring" about exactly that sort of thing. Some of them have hit, some of them are not. We've had things go to contract. We had a couple of shows this last weekend, which is
nice.
The thing that's most remarkable about that is that we consider that remarkable. But that's the way it is. It's going to be a little bit different, and that's going to be one of the things that's going to transition us over.
Yeah.
This, and whatever else we can think of, and it will arise out of a need. I mean, you can't just wave a magic wand and say we're all going to do this. People are either going to be interested or they're not. But I for one, I'm long enough in the tooth that I actually remember when drive-in movies were popular, and I miss them damn things.
They're fun.
They're cool.
They're
a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a little trickier setting up in a drive-in with some of we had Brian Adaraman here today speaking about somebody asking him to help with one of those, and he started to tell him, well, what about power distribution, stage, so on, stuff that the drive-in doesn't have naturally, and the dollar signs started racking up pretty rapidly for the promoter asking. And I think they have to work on some of those immediate problems. But there's been other countries like Denmark who are fully involved in that, using their old drive-ins for this purpose, and it's gone pretty well from what we can tell. So fingers crossed that that's happening.
Well, the death of drive-ins arose out of the fact that in many parts of continental North America there were a seasonal thing. You're not gonna go to a drive-in movie in January in the Chicagoland area.
Good point.
And they're incredibly real estate intensive in a lot of markets where real estate has become expensive, and that was the demise of drive-in theaters. But as we've established, things change. There's a renewed interest.
Yeah.
And they morph themselves into something else anyway. There's a drive-in in Oakland that's now a full-time flea market because that was what they were able to do well.
Yeah.
So the whole thing has changed. The whole topic here is we have to change as a matter of course, as a matter of being alive. Change is inevitable, and a little bit of change is being thrust upon us.
Yes, definitely thrust upon us. So I know. So basically, to recap, you came up in the audio side after trying your chops as a musician. And I know you mixed for quite a few bands. A lot of fun there.
Yeah.
You've made your way to where you have. Well, I know for one point the company you sold, you had the huge stock of projectors. You ended up.
We had the AVTS. Things are a little bit compressed in the history of technology because things move so fast. But we had a whole passel mess of light valve video projectors. And that was the shit back then, and that was the top line light engine. I mean, several years ago, I damn close to shed a tear as we were pushing triple light valve turbos into the solid electronic waste disposal.
Oh no!
Just thinking, it's going out the door as garbage. What was $5 million worth of projectors.
Wow. Yeah,
that developed about as much brightness as something that can come in a box this big now.
how the times have changed for
How
sure.
the times have changed.
Well, I know your company, LSV, is a premier provider of some of the top level quality LED walls,
Yeah.
video devices. What is the elevator pitch when a client comes to you, and how do you determine what type of package you're going to use? How does that work?
I don't really rely on an elevator pitch. I don't really need it. We're pretty well known in the business, and the people that seek us out are past that bit. I mean, there's times when you're at when you're at a Thanksgiving table or a Seder table or something like that, and you have to explain to a relative what you do. That's the time for the elevator pitch, and that's what you're doing at that point. But we were fortunate to be around at a time of big changes in technology. Avesco sent when we were in the early days of AVTS, Avesco sent a StarVision truck over to the United States, which we assisted in managing, and that was discharge tube technology, English electric valve StarVision, and that put us in the outdoor screens business at a time when there were 3 companies.
Date that.
Counting us doing.
Give or take, when was this?
Oh shoot, that was mid '80s.
Wow.
And so we stayed involved in that business, and and it was a very expensive business to be in, and it just so happens that at a point where other companies were vested in discharge tube and CRT cell outdoor screenage technology, we are positioned in a way to quickly maximize diode-based video display. We were actually the first company in North America to rent diode-based video screens.
Oh.
Wow, pioneer.
It's boasting rights, but like all boasting rights, that and $5 will get you on a BART train. The high output blue was stabilized and made into a product, and we realized quickly that we could make video screens out of LEDs, and away we went. So we had some good partnerships early on, and we were in that business, and in the first with LEDs. So that's great. That worked out. It was prohibitively expensive for a very, very long time, and that put us in a unique little niche where we would provide gear and services to production companies that couldn't afford it. The price of LED video display has dropped a little bit. It's full of hazards. It's full of pitfalls. There's about I don't know what it is now since all this economic fallout has occurred. There were at one point 1,000 companies in Asia that were making some kind of LED video display technology, and maybe 20 to 24 of them were worth mentioning from a quality standpoint. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of opportunity for bad pitfalls, and a lot of companies have made those bad pitfalls, and so now that there's a lot of cheap Chinese junk out in the market, little mom and pop lighting shops that bought 100 panels and tried to make a go of it, and realized that they couldn't for one reason or another. But these are market changes. They happen, and we've got to roll with them.
How do you keep with the LA company that's like doing the $50 a panel kind of thing? It's just like you're not getting the quality, but that's what people want, is to like cut a corner with their cost. It's so bizarre.
Let's run the numbers. If you're going to properly maintain your gear and send it out on a show, it costs you $35 to $40 to QC each panel.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, it's going to look like it.
Yeah, you're going to
send
in an inferior product. Absolutely. I've noticed.
And if And if you're going out in the marketplace and sullying and beshitting yourself, it's going to look like it after a while there too. So, I mean, you can't. You know, there are hard economic realities, and if your P&L and your balance sheet aren't making any sense, then your business is not making any sense, and your days are numbered.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. Yeah, and we've seen that happen kind of over and over. I know initially the Chinese, like you said, there was a lot of providers and not a lot of quality, and they were very aggressive in selling their product, getting their product out. Yeah, I mean, I would routinely sort this stuff out of my email. Yeah. People trying to come in and be friends on Facebook and get into the pages and immediately hit you with these hard sells on their LED and their LEDs. And so I guess the secret for you was to figure out the right packages to get, because your stuff's always beautiful.
We evolved into a different level. I mean, we became more involved in designing the product. We would specify, we had set specifications. We would specify components, lamps, and chipsets. We would set target goals. You know, we're not accepting anything below this brightness level. We're not accepting anything below this refresh rate. We have a model by how long this component needs to last. You know. Anything less than 100,000 hour half-life is probably not going to be a good model. But, you know, we would either modify existing chassis, we would design our own. We would design our own touring rigs. We would, you know, just basically create a product. Select an OEM manufacturer to do final assembly and burn tests. You know, import it, obtain the North American and European certifications, throw our name on it, market it. You know, I mean, that it's, you know, it's not to disparage Chinese products. There are some companies in China that are making superb product. Like I said, that 20 to 24 companies. Yeah. But you know, still in all, you've got to proceed very carefully, and it's easier to do that when you kind of know what you're doing. And it's hard to stay on top of knowing what you're doing because a lot of things change, situations change. You know, you can't really rest on, you know, I'm the do all, know all, everything like that. It's a good way to have somebody come along and eat your lunch for you.
Yeah, there's one thing when we need to spec out a job and we want the best, we call you. It really is that simple for us. We have learned the hard way, and you know, messed around with some smaller companies that didn't quite have the quality control and the basically the heart to come and bring the best to the show.
Well, it's, you know, it's a business that quickly separates the men from the boys. You know, and we've all. You know, look behind us. We've all made a tremendous commitment in presentation technology. Them some spendy speakers right there, man.
Sure are.
Yeah.
Know? And that's really what you need to do.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you're the people I know who are in it because they're fascinated and enthralled with the technology and want to make it better. I just read a pretty good interview with Michael Tate, a very wealthy man, Tate Towers, where he said, "It was never about the money. I just wanted to build cool stuff."
It's a great line.
He's built some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, he's a pretty accomplished guy.
Yeah,
and that logic is good. Looks like we're running a little long. Pat is saying hi to you, John. Pat O'Doul.
Pat O'Doul says, "Hey, John," and I'll say, "Hey, Pat."
Pat, how you doing? Thanks for checking in with us. We are, as usual, because that's what we do, is run long. John could sit here and we could listen to him talk all damn night. We really appreciate him being here. You know, John, again, is one of the reasons we get to do this is because he is gracious enough to loan us the equipment. So I'd like to send a shout out to the folks at Large Screen Video, of course, John. John, and your managing partner with, can you tell me?
Cameron Brown is a partner in the company. Cameron is a very capable man who was a Lucasfilm alumnus when he came to us, and
Great pedigree.
you know, he's just a real smart guy. I've heard him compared to MacGyver. It's an apt comparison, and he's got some talents that I certainly don't have. A great technical mind. He's our chief technology officer, and he can tell somebody to go to hell in a way that makes them look forward to the trip. So that's in and of itself.
That is an absolute special talent for sure. Well, we want to thank you, John, for your kindness, your generosity to let us make this happen. We can't go without a mention that Sound Image Productions, my brother George Edwards, their general manager, allows us this space and the equipment to do this show as well as our CEO, the big dog, Dave Shadone of Southern California Sound Image, and all of the Sound Image incarnations is Dave Shadone. We want to thank you, Dave, for allowing us this place and to give us this ability to really flex our chops and express ourselves through this medium. We got a bunch of people. John's not wrong. This is without being mushy. It's kind of a love letter to our friends. It's like, hey, we're doing this. We miss you. We wish we could be with you. So thank you, Dave Shadone. And also our friends over at Slow Fiber. They provide us our masks. Believe it or not, we do the social distancing, the mask stuff. So thank you, Slow Fiber, for providing us the masks. They make a great product. What do you think, John?
After things get back to normal, this is really going to come in handy in an armed robbery.
Yeah, I'll be good to go. I'll have that wired. Thank you, Slow Fiber, and the people at slowfiber.com. Reach out to them if you need something. Otherwise, we really appreciate you coming out tonight, John. Thank you to our studio audience. That's Joe Victoria and John Fukushima.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, literally, you've seen them on the show before. They're the big dogs in the game. If you want your concert filmed properly, you call these guys for sure. And also the guys behind the camera. Thank you to Leaf Osborne, our director, camera operator, and Mike Brown, our audio guy. He's a badass, and without him, we couldn't get it done. It's kind of that simple. And again, for Kyle Thomas stepping in. Kyle, thanks, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And thanks for what you're doing with the kids, getting them up on their chops with the S6L and the Pro Tools. It's an intricate system that it involves a lot of attention and detail. So thank you for that.
Looky there. Greetings from the Netherlands.
Oh, we reach is kind of far. We get across the world, and it's kind of fun. That's what the Backstage Pass.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, Tiziana. It must be very, very late there.
Yes, we definitely appreciate. We appreciate the audience. We appreciate you guys spending your time with us. We know there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of choices out there, a lot of people doing different things, and you to come to us feels very special. Upcoming this next Thursday, we've got Brian Autorama. He's the stage manager, the monitor guy for Michael Fronte and Spearhead. He's got an interesting story about touring in Africa. I can't wait to talk to him about it. That's not something a lot of us get to do, is regardless of how far and wide we tour. We usually don't hit Africa. So,
and if you haven't seen Michael Fronte and Spearhead,
oh man,
do it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. They're one hell of a live act, and great band. We appreciate you coming in tonight. We will hopefully see you next week, and until then, thank you very much. This is Beyond the Backstage Pass. Thank you, John.
Thanks, man.
All right, brother.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. It's always
Appreciate
good to see you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
All right.